We wish to acknowledge that Canada is on Turtle Island, which is a vast territory of traditional landscapes of many Indigenous peoples who over time have occupied and made this land their home from time immemorial. The original peoples who began their journey taking those early footsteps in our creation stories across this land, some came from the stars and others came from the sky. And there were those who came from underground, but there's something important that they all share. And that is their stories of arrival to this land we call home, on Turtle Island. Nindinawe Magani Duck, which means all my relations, which means we are all related.
The opinions expressed in the following programs are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of Rogers nor Rogers TV.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Talk Politics. Our guest this week, first time on the show, and we're so excited to speak with him. It is Kawartha Lakes Mayor Doug Elmslie. Now, Doug, welcome to the show. When we're recording this, you're still mayor-elect officially. By the time this airs, you will be mayor. Congratulations on the win.
Thank you very much. And yes, very exciting times. And we're looking forward to moving ahead with this new council and continuing work that has been started by previous councils, and of course some new initiatives as well. So just, you know, really exciting time in the city of Kawartha Lakes.
Now, you have been in municipal politics as a councillor for 16 years, right? First elected 2006. How has that time as a councillor prepared you for taking the mayor's chair?
Well, I think it's a combination of things. It's also my previous life working in, I worked for large corporations, and large corporations can sometimes be very political, and you learn how to work with people, and you learn how to manage budgets and resources and get things done. So when you translate that into being on a council with, initially we had 16 people on council plus a mayor, and then of course we reduced to 8 people and a mayor. You need to work with the other councillors in order to get things accomplished within your ward and within the city, and you have to help them as they also help you. So you form alliances and you form relationships with these people in order to get it done. And all of those things over my 4 terms have built it to a point where I feel comfortable and confident that I can be the mayor and lead the city forward and work with the group of 8 councillors, 4.5 who are new councillors, into the future and accomplish what we need to accomplish to keep moving Kawartha Lakes forward.
4.5 new members, like that's 4.5. Well, the half is someone who's not a total newbie, right?
That's correct. She was a councillor for several years, but hasn't been on council for 8 years. So I jokingly refer to her as having half an experience.
You've told me before that you're very excited about this council and this group. Why?
Well, I think it's because when I look at them, they're a very eclectic group. They have different backgrounds and training. We have people who were teachers and musicians. We have a person who was who ran a small business, for many, many years and is an entrepreneur and knows the business community and the BIA and the chambers and their responsibilities. We have someone who has an agricultural background. We have someone else who has a media background. We have one counselor who is a builder and also a small business person, and knows the building code and all of the things attendant to that. And we have someone who's an environmentalist. We have just covered all the bases. We have someone who understands forestry as well. So when we combine all of those experiences and we look at where we need to go, tapping into those backgrounds and experiences, I think will be really beneficial in order to have good discussions about things that are coming forward so that we can make the best decisions.
So with half of your counselors being newbies,
Yep.
how do you plan to bring them up to speed? Because you
We're
need to
going
bring
to-
them up to speed quickly and hit the ground running, right?
Absolutely. In the next, I would say, 3 weeks, we're going to have some meetings where we go over things like our procedural bylaw and our code of conduct, so they understand the protocols of council. Then I've asked the CAO to get our treasurer to put together a training package, which we'll call Budget 101, to talk about how we put budgets together, why budgets are so important for the city, how they're built, how decisions are made, and how you get something into a budget or how you remove something from a budget. And I think it's very important that we do that, because the budget will be the first large thing that this council has to deal with. And it sets the tone for everything we do during the year. Because if something isn't in the budget, then it can't be done. If we need to hire somebody, then the number has to be in the budget. If it's a project, the project must be in the budget. So there is some wiggle room, but they need to understand how the budget impacts almost everything the city does. So I think that's very important.
I was going to say, so that is obviously number one on your priority list, is that budget.
Yes, it is.
I just want to take a step back to the election before we move on. And I want to ask you about voter turnout in Kawartha Lakes. It was just over 32%, I believe, 32.66, if I am correct. Not a bad voter turnout compared to many other municipalities, but still, when you consider only 33% of eligible voters cast their ballot, how disappointing is that to you?
It was disappointing from many aspects. But the number one thing that I find disappointing about it is that municipal politics, those elections are probably more important to an individual than any other election they will take part in. When they vote in a federal election or they vote in a provincial election, and I'm not encouraging people not to do that. I'm encouraging everybody to vote when they have an opportunity. But those elections really don't impact on your personal life the way the municipal election does. Municipal elections affect your day-to-day life. It's about fixing your roads. It's about plowing your roads, picking up your garbage, maintaining your parks and playgrounds, your arenas, your ball fields. It touches on almost everything you are going to do day to day. And in order to make sure that you have the people there that you have confidence in order to maintain those things and to bring forward new programs and bring forward new initiatives that make your community a place where you can be proud of and you want to live. I think it's important that people vote in municipal politics over and above any other level of government because it affects you most directly.
And why do you think they did not this time around?
I think that a lot of people are, because of the past 2 years of our pandemic, they're tired and just not engaged in the process. They want to move on with their lives and they don't want a lot of excess baggage. I think that there's just a weariness out there that I felt when I talked to people at the door when we were campaigning. There seems to be an ennui, if you like, where they're fed up with everything and they just want to move ahead and they don't want to have to make decisions and they don't want to have to get involved in something. They want things to get back to the way they were prior to the pandemic. And I'm not sure we can ever get there. I think we're dealing with a new way of doing things. I think we're dealing with something that is going to be the new normal. And I don't know when it's going to start because I don't know if we're finished with the pandemic and we're in the endemic stage or whether we are continuing down the road of the pandemic. I certainly don't believe and certainly hope that we're not going to be faced with more lockdowns and more masking and the other attendant things that went with the pandemic, although I believe they were necessary at the time. I think now we're in a position where we probably are going to have to live with COVID as a reality in our lives.
Yeah. Also, when we talked before, you also mentioned that Kawartha Lakes didn't have the paper ballot. Tell me that story about when you were campaigning at Thanksgiving, and there is a lot of sentiment out there that your residents want the paper ballot back.
Yes. A lot of them expressed that point of view. And the reason we went electronic this time was twofold. Mm. We have a lot of seasonal residents in Kawartha Lakes, and they close up their cottages or summer homes in the fall, and they go back to their primary residence, which could be Hamilton, London, Burlington, Kingston, wherever. And they're probably not going to come up here for one day to vote. So we felt we had to give them an opportunity because they do pay large taxes, as most of them are on waterfront property, that they should have the opportunity to vote in the municipal election. So we chose to go with the electronic and the phone voting. We also at that time didn't know what the state of COVID was going to be. How would we work if we couldn't bring a number of people into congregate settings to vote? So we felt that given the two issues, that it would be better to just stick to the electronic voting or voting by phone. In the future, yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I didn't mean to interrupt you. But yet, when you were knocking on a family's door at Thanksgiving, you certainly heard the other side of the story where they want that paper ballot. Did they say why?
Yeah, indeed. I had one woman say to me that they were at a family gathering and 30 people. And of the 30 people, all of them said they wouldn't vote electronically. They wanted to do the paper ballot. I asked if there was anything I could do to dissuade them and change their mind. They said, no, we want a paper ballot. So the new council will have to make a decision in probably 2 years from now on how the next election will be run. And I wouldn't be surprised to see some kind of hybrid situation where we had both electronic and paper ballots.
Okay, I'm going to stop you there. We have to take a quick break. We are in conversation with Kawartha Lakes Mayor Doug Elmslie. Stay with us.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
Sometimes, for a wish to come true, it takes a kingdom, because together is stronger. Tied tight, united we stand, in honor of one child's wish, to fuel the fire that will grant many more. Join the kingdom.
You're watching Rogers TV.
And welcome back to Talk Politics. Our guest this week is Kawartha Lakes Mayor Doug Elmslie. Let's talk more about what's on your priority list for the coming term. We've talked about budget. That's the number one. Why municipal government is so important to everyday life. Too often people, I think the responsibilities of municipal, provincial, and federal kind of all get married together, and it can be very confusing, can't it?
Yep. People don't necessarily delineate between what's a federal responsibility, what's a provincial responsibility, and what is a municipal one. And of course, it's probably easier to contact your councillor or your mayor than it is to get your MP or MPP. So those lines do get blurred.
Now, I just wanted to ask you about one of those blurred lines is healthcare, which is traditionally a provincial responsibility, but Kawartha Lakes has a history of supporting healthcare, right down to you were saying a $1 million capital replacement program for the hospital, correct?
That's correct.
Why did you feel that was necessary?
I believe it's necessary. We need to keep our residents safe and healthy. If the programs aren't there from the provincial and federal government, then although it's difficult for us to do, we need to make sure that we put things in place to help those healthcare institutions be successful so that our residents can have the care they deserve. And I'll just touch on 2 or 3 points that illustrate that. You point out that, yes, we gave Ross Memorial Hospital in 2022 $1 million towards replacement of capital items in the hospital. And that's because the replacement of things like MRIs and X-ray machines and things are not covered by the province or the feds. They pay for them the first time, but if you have to replace them, it's up to the hospital to raise the money. We felt we needed to step up to the plate and help, so we gave them $1 million in 2022, and I expect that it will be in the budget for at least the next 5 years, the same amount. We also are looking at building a wellness center in Cobeconk to take pressure off the Ross Memorial Hospital. This is an initiative done by the Cobeconk Chamber of Commerce, and they have been successful in raising $1.5 million. The previous council voted to backstop that project up to $10 million. We fully expect that we will get grants and more contributions, and it will be a partnership between the city and the Chamber of Commerce in Cobeconk to get that wellness center built. As well as that, we maintain a fund with Ross Memorial Hospital for doctor recruitment. Doctor recruitment in rural areas for family physicians is very difficult. We have a healthcare initiative, and as I said, we put funding in and keep a fund in the neighborhood of $100,000 to $120,000, and that is so we can recruit doctors, and we use the money to help them move and set up an office in Kawartha Lakes. So that's another way we do it. And our paramedics initiated a program about 2 or 3 years ago. What was happening was seniors and others being released from the hospital, particularly on the weekends, may go home and there's nobody there. They don't have their medication and they may not have food. What happens is, over the weekend, they deteriorate, get sick, and we're being put back in the hospital. Our paramedics set up a program where they went and visited them in their home, made sure they had their medication, made sure they had food, and made sure someone was there to help them if they needed it. That has resulted in a very large number of seniors not being readmitted to hospital. I'm not sure what the number is for readmissions to hospital, but I think I have heard the number that for somebody to go back in and stay several days, it's probably in the neighborhood of $8,000 per individual. I wouldn't want anybody to quote me on that number, but it's one that kind of stuck in my mind. So we are very active in the healthcare in helping to try and keep our residents healthy.
What a wonderful program, the paramedic program.
Yes.
Talk about a success story. Moving on, we've only got, I think, about 6 minutes left, if
Okay.
that. So I also want to ask you about affordable housing, because that is on your to-do list as well.
One of the other things I will speak to affordable housing. Before that, probably the number one thing you hear at the door and talking to people wherever you go in Kawartha Lakes, it's roads, roads, roads. So roads and infrastructure are very, very important. And we, in the last term of council, we doubled the amount of money we were putting into our roads. And we are starting to see the benefits of that. And we'll continue at that level through this term of council. Because everyone on council has heard the same message, and we will continue. And I think we're going to get a handle on this, and people are going to see that their roadways are improving and will be improved. But to get back to your question about affordable housing is another one that where we need help from the senior levels of government. We can't do it ourselves. We don't have the resources for it. Right now, we have a corporation called the Halliburton Kawartha Housing Corporation. It is the largest renter of affordable housing in both Halliburton and Kawartha Lakes. Kawartha Lakes is the lead agency for social services for the province, and we share with Halliburton County. The problem we're faced with is rising interest rates and inflation running at 6%. The model we had for looking after affordable housing doesn't work anymore with the interest rates being higher. The way it works is that we deal with the province and the feds, and we set up a project to build affordable housing. We must then go out and get the debenture, build it, and over 30 years, we get paid back by the province and the feds. The problem is that with inflation and with the higher interest rates, we collect rent geared to income from those rental properties, which provide the carrying cost for the debenture and also for the maintenance on the buildings. While with those higher costs, that doesn't work so much anymore. So we're having to look for other ways to do it. We need to have more public-private partnerships in order to get more rental units built, because right now we have a 5-year waiting list. So if you're looking for a place for you and your family, 5 years is a long time to be on a list. And what do you do in the meantime if you're struggling to make ends meet? So it really is almost I would say it's pretty much a crisis proportion. And we have to find a solution to it. And I think that means negotiating with the province and the feds, and also working with private industry to try and get more housing built.
How confident are you that those partnerships will pay off and you'll be able to get it done?
I've talked to 2 builders, and they are most interested in doing that. And I think if you see what the province has done in terms of featuring affordable housing in their recent press releases about taking off things like development charges and other fees and permits, it starts to become attractive to builders to build this kind of housing.
Okay, we only have about a minute left, so very quickly, what do you love best or most about your community?
I really like that we have so many volunteers. We call ourselves a community of communities because we have so many little hamlets and villages and towns throughout Kawartha Lakes. We're not one giant city. And in all of those places, you have all these volunteers who do so many things, from the horticultural societies to, the hockey mums and dads, to baseball, to scouts and cubs and seniors clubs and legions, and it goes on and on. All the volunteers who are out there and do things in the community to make the communities better, to make the communities interesting, and to make the communities just the place you want to live. And I won't ignore the arts in terms of culture and those things, because they're important as well.
Doug, I've got to stop you there. Believe it or not, we're out of time. Thank you so much for joining us. Come back again, will you?
I will. You invite me, I'll come back.
Okay, and thanks to you, our viewers. Until next time, I'm Debra Hutchison.